Let's go over to the UK now, where overnight the long-awaited report into the Downing Street lockdown breaches was finally released. The 60-page report by a senior public servant called Sue Gray has been hanging over the government's head for many months. Now, it's public, it's out there, and has only intensified the political pressure on the Prime Minister, who is struggling tonight to move past this scandal. Joining me now to sort of pull it all apart and what it might mean for Boris Johnson is British political strategist and former advisor to Tony Blair, John McTernan. John, appreciate your time. We've followed this issue pretty closely here on Credlin. Any surprises in the report?
The biggest surprise is the treatment of staff. One of the revelations when Sue Gray, the civil servant, talked to the staff at Number 10, the cleaners and the custodians, and it turned out that one of the staff members got drunk and it got into a fight. They were insulting towards custodians. There was vomit left in the PMO, or the Number 10, obviously they're equivalent of the PMO. There's vomit, there was wine splashed up the walls. I mean, a thing that you would find inconceivable when you were in government, I find inconceivable when I was in Canberra and when I was in London. And so it's the treatment of the staff is becoming a really big issue, particularly as the cleaning staff were made to come into work. And one member of the cleaning staff in Number 10 actually caught COVID and died. So we have a growing issue around the way the staff were treated, which feels to reflect the culture of the organisation, the way that people feel very, very perturbed about in the general public.
And look, it amplifies what Australians feel when they look at this class structure in Britain, and it's a real upstairs, downstairs thing there with the Tories and the staff. And of course, Boris Johnson said pretty early on, nothing much happened, nothing to see here. It was only a couple of, cups of tea in the garden. We see now those pictures inside the cabinet room holding up a glass of wine. It's very much a party. At the time when people in Britain were locked up and couldn't even farewell loved ones, can he survive?
Well, you've hit the nail on the head there. Boris Johnson said in Parliament yesterday and at a press conference yesterday that he believed it was a leadership responsibility for him to go to leave parties, but people were unable to go to say farewell, the final farewell to their loved ones in funerals. That distinction, he said there weren't parties till I left them. There were work events when I was at them, even though he is pictured with alcohol and toasting with alcohol. So can he survive? In the end, survival depends on the Parliamentary Conservative Party, the Parliamentary Caucus. And at the moment, they are all shrugging and saying, well, the police investigated this, only one fine. He's only committed one criminal offence, according to the police. The report looks terrible, but it's the past. Let's all move on. And he will survive this politically inside his own party. He is not surviving politically outside. 60% of people polled yesterday said he should resign. That is a very large number. If they find the right parties to vote for at the next election, then the Tory party are in trouble, and Boris Johnson could well lose his seat. He's in a London seat, and London is very anti-Tory at the moment.
Yeah, look, I can't help but see a parallel here between Scott Morrison and Labor's character assessments. Very potent in the campaign. Not my job in fires, not my job with floods, vaccine rollouts, dereliction of duty. Very, very similar. And I know in Britain, in the Telegraph, in the newspaper, there was an editorial that says, Boris, if you don't lift your game, you don't learn from what's happened in Australia with the Morrison government, you too will be out. Now, yes, you worked for Tony Blair, but you also worked for Julia Gillard. What did you take out of the weekend's election result?
I took that exactly your point. You cannot spend 3 years without a policy agenda for the future of your country. You can't spend 3 years believing that winning the next morning's headlines in the news, in the papers, is the only way to govern. Mm-hmm. You have to do something that delivers for the country and also that delivers for the future. Boris Johnson keeps on talking about the vaccine rollout. That's the past. Even Winston Churchill didn't win the 1945 election by saying, but I won the war. No one gets voted for in politics by saying, please thank me for what I've just done for you. You only get elected by promising for the future. So the lack of focus on governing, the lack of focus on the future, the lack of focus on policy. I saw that in the Scott Morrison government over the last 3 years, and I saw it. You're seeing it in the Johnson government. There's a very good article in the Financial Times today by Robert Shrimsley where he sets all this out. And I think you cannot rely on voters just to turn out for you because you say you try and have campaigning wedge issues. You need to stand for something, because if you don't stand for something, why would people actually vote for you?
I tell you what, we're on opposing sides here in Australia ideologically, John, but I think you have just said everything I'd been saying here in my editorials most nights for 6+ months. Thank you for your time.